So hello everyone, this is Abby Guerrero coming from Group 4 and we are assigned to work with Chapter 5, which is distinguishing and constructing various papers and pencil tests. So before we begin, what is this distinguishing and constructing various paper and pencil test? So in this chapter is aalamin natin at pag-aaralan natin ng iba't ibang uri ng paper at pencil test. So una, bago tayo magsimula, ano nga ba ang paper and pencil test? So, ang paper and pencil test refers to the traditional students' assessment formats such as written tests and also to standardized tests that ask students to use pencils to fill in bubbles on the scannable answer sheet. So, items development is a crucial step that determines the validity and reliability of an assessment. Okay, so we have two types of paper and pencil tests. First is the selected response type, and the second is constructed response type. So, under the selected response type, we have true or false items, second multiple choice type items, and the matching type response. So under the constructed response type, this includes enumeration, completion, and essay. So sa selected response type po is meron tayong true or false, multiple choice type, and matching type. So sa selected response type po is hindi dito gaano maa-apply ang HATS or the higher order thinking skills kasi meron dito mga choices available. So, while in constructed response type, which is enumeration, completion, and essay, is talagang mahuhubog talaga ang kakayahan sa pag-iisip ng mga estudyante dito kasi dito nila mai-encounter or dito nila mai-experience ang imaginary capabilities nila. Dito nila mahuhubog ang kanilang mga kaisipan sa pagsagot, which is talagang isip talaga nila ang gagamitin. According or based on their experiences, based on their environmental availability. So, sa selected response type, which is true or false, dito sa paper and pencil test na to, na true or false, is may dalawang choices lang, which is true or the one is false. So, pagpipilian lang ng estudyante or ng bata kung alin ba sa dalawa ang tama. So, pag-iisipan lang nila. Pipili lang sila sa dalawang choices. So, while the multiple choice type is that meron na ditong 2 or 3 or 4 choices na available, which is pipili sila doon sa 3 or 4 choices na available doon. Sa matching type naman is that dalawa lang din. Pero more on sa matching type is that the relationship of two things. For example, sa column A and sa column B. So, halimbawa, sa column A is the works of the person or of the artist. So, sa column B naman is the artist na kung sino gumawa ng sa column A na yun. So, in terms kasi of enumeration, talagang dito nasusukat ang kakayahan ng isang bata sa pag-memorize. So, enumeration is that the parts or the let's say what are the etc. Diba? So, all in all, constructed response type is more complicated with selected response type. Kasi sa constructed response type is, like for example, this enumeration. For example nga sa enumeration, enumerate nga the 8 parts of speech. So, kailangan mo na makuha lahat ng 8 parts of speech na yon. So, which is kailangan mo familiarize or sometimes nga is minimemorize pa natin. Okay. Si completion of essay naman is that dito na lalabas ang kakayahan sa pag-iisip ng bata, which is minsan according to researches, sometimes according to experiences, and minsan naman is according to environment na ginagalawan ng isang tao or isang bata. So next, we have in planning a test and construction of table of specification, we have some important steps in planning for a test. So first, identifying a test objective or lesson or outcomes. So, in planning test and construction of table specifications, kailangan nating ma-identify ang objective or outcome ng isang pag-aaral na gagawin or isang test na gagawin. So, pag sinabi nating objective, ito yung goal or ito yung hangarin na pagkatapos ng ganitong test is dapat yung mga bata is ganito na. Dapat the students or the children are capable too. Ganon. So, number 2, deciding on the type of objective test to be prepared. So, dapat nakapag-desisyon ka na sa type ng objective test na gagawin mo. So, third, preparing a table of specifications. Fourth, constructing a draft test items. So, next is tryout and validation. Next, the types of paper and pencil test. So, development of paper and pencil test requires careful planning and expertise in terms of actual test construction. So, the more seasoned teachers can produce true-false items that can test even higher order thinking skills and not just truth memory learning. So, the true or false test, it is a binomial choice or alternative response test that our tests have only 2 options, such as true or false, right or wrong, yes or no, good or better, or check or cross out, and so on and so forth.
Guidelines for constructing alternate response test. Rule number 1, do not give a hint in the body of the question. So, sabi dito, huwag magbibigay ng hint sa tanong dahil mabilis nila itong masasagutan. For example, the Philippines gained its independence in 1898 and therefore celebrated its essential year in 2000. Obviously, the answer is false because 100 years from 1898 is not 2000 but 1998. Rule number 2. Avoid using the words always, never, often, and other words that tend to be either always true or always false. Kailangan nating iwasang gamitin ang mga salitang ito. Example, Christmas always falls on a Sunday because it is a Sabbath day. So, the statement that use the word always are almost always false. A test-wise student can easily guess his way through a test like this and get high score even if he does not know anything about the test. Next, rule number 3. Avoid long sentences as they tend to be true. Keep sentences short. Kung gagawa tayo ng sentence, kailangan din nating iwasan na magsulat ng mahabang pangusap dahil sa isip pa lang ay maaari nang isipin nilang tama ito. Kaya panatilihing maiikli ang gagawing pangungusap. For example, tests need to be valid, reliable, and useful, although it would require a great amount of time and effort to ensure that tests possess this test characteristic. Notice that the statement is true, however, we are also not sure which part of the sentence is deemed true by the student. It is just fortunate that in this case, all parts of the sentence are true and hence the entire sentence is true. The following example illustrates what can go wrong in long sentence. Tests need to be valid, reliable, and useful, although it would require a great amount of time and effort to ensure that tests possess this test characteristic. The first part of the sentence is true, but the second part is debatable and may, in fact, be false. Thus, a true response is correct, and also a false response is correct. For rule number 4, avoid trick statement with some minor misleading word or spelling anomaly, misspelled phrases. A wise student who does not know the subject matter may detect this strategy and thus get the answer correctly. For example, The Robin was written by Edgar Allan Poe. Allan is misspelled and the answer would be false. This is an example of a tricky but utterly useless item. Rule number 5. Avoid quoting verbatim from reference materials or textbook. This practice sends the wrong signal to the student that it is necessary to memorize the textbook word for word, and thus acquisition of higher level thinking skills is not given due importance. Rules number 6. Avoid specific determiners or give away qualifiers. Students quickly learn the strongly worded statement are more likely to be false than true. For example, statements with never, no, all, or always, moderately worded statements are more likely to be true than false. Statements that are moderately worded use many, often, sometimes, generally, frequently, or some, usually should be avoided. And for rule number 7, with true or false questions, avoid disproportionate number of either true or false statements or even pattern in the occurrence of true or false statement. For ease of correction, teachers sometimes create a pattern of true or false answer. Student will sense it and many arrive at a correct answer not because he or she really knows the answer but because he or she senses the pattern. Karamihan sa mga guro na gumagawa ng mga activity about sa true or false ay gumagawa sila ng pattern. Halimbawa, 1 to 5, the number 1 is true, the number 2 is false, number 3 is true ulit. So, minsan nasisense ng mga estudyante ang pattern na yon. Kaya, kung maaari, pwede natin yung iwasan para kumbaga mas makapag-isip ang mga estudyante. And lastly, rule number 8. Avoid double negative. This make test unclear and definitely will confuse the student. Sa paraan na ito, ginagawang hindi malinaw ang item sa pagsusulit at tiyak na malilito ang mga mag-aaral. So, for example, the changes that take place in early childhood are not unchangeable. The test item sample means the changes in early childhood are changeable. And that's are the guidelines for constructing alternate response test.
So, constructing supply type or constructed response type. So, this is another useful device for testing lower order thinking skills is the supply type of test. Like the multiple choice test, the items in these kinds of tests consist of a stem and a blank where the students would write the correct answers. Supply test depends heavily on the way the stems are constructed. This test allow for the only one answer and hence, of 10 tests, only the students recall the knowledge. So dito dapat ay ibigay ng mag-aaral ang sagot sapagkat dito malalaman ng mga guro ang kakayahan ng mga mag-aaral na mag-isip ng kanilang mga natutunan sa aralin. At ito ay nangangailangan ng kakayahang magpahayag ng mga ideya at bukod dito, mahalaga ito sa pagsukat ng mag-aaral sa pagkalahatang pag-unawa sa paksa. So, example nga the study of life and living organism is called blank. Ganon. So, completion type of test. It is possible to construct supply type of test that will test higher order thinking skills. So, dito naman, magko-construct ka ng sentence mo na kulang. Meaning, kailangan mong hanapin para ma-flourish mo yung sentence. Kinakailangan dyan ng higher order thinking. Ibig sabihin, dapat may analysis para maintindihan mo yung tanong. By this type of test na pinapagawa ng mga guro sa mga estudyante niya, natetest kasi dito kung hanggang saan ba yung kakayahan ng mga estudyante na mag-isip at mag-analysis ng questions. So, dumako naman tayo dito sa guidelines in the formulation of a completion type of test. Ito na yung example ng kung paano gagawing completion type of test. Ito na yung sinasabing fill in the blank na paggawa ng test. First, avoid over mutilated sentences like this test item. Give enough clues to the students. Halimbawa, the blank produced by the blank is used by the green blank to change the blank and blank into blank. This process is called blank. Hindi dapat ganon, okay? Parang ayaw mong makatamang student mo pag ganito. Provide enough clues at pag over mutilated ay wala na ang thought or parang wala nang gana ang content nito and more confusing siya kaya malaki ang chance na magkamali ang students. Second, avoid open-ended item. There should be only one acceptable answer. This item is open-ended, hence no good test item. Example, Ernest Hemingway wrote blank. So open-ended questions are one that requires more than one word answers. The answers could come in the form of a list, a few sentences or something longer such as a speech, paragraph, or essay. Third, the blank should be at the end or near the end of the sentence. The questions must first be asked before an answer is expected. Like the matching type of test, the stem where the question is packed must be in the first column. Ito naman ay related sa number 1, which kailangan magbigay ng enough hints or clues. So, para magawa yun, kailangan ilagay ang blank sa near end or end of the sentence para more chance na tumama ang mga students kasi doon ay mas maa-analyze ng bata ang sentence kasi may provided clue na. Pang-apat, ask question on other more significant items not on trivial matter. Example, Jose Rizal was born on June blank 1861. There are other more significant items to ask other than specific birth dates. Number 5. The length of the blanks must not suggest the answer, so better to make the blanks uniform in size. So example, a part of speech that names person, places, or thing is blank. Another example, a word used to connect clauses or sentences or to coordinate words in the same clause is called blank. Kailangan na uniform in size ang length of blanks para hindi mag-guess lang ang bata. Mas malaki ang chance na manghula lang si learner kung hindi uniform ang length of blanks.
Let's come now to essay. It is classified on non-objective tests allow for the assessment of higher thinking order skills. Ang essay daw ay isang non-objective test na pwedeng maging paraan ng mga guro upang masubok ang mga kakayahan o kaalaman na nakuha ng mga estudyante at upang mahubog ang kanilang critical thinking skills. There are essay questions can be used to measure attainment of the variety of the objectives. Number 1. Comparing essay. It involves taking two or more subjects and analyzing the differences and similarities between them. Number 2. Relating cause and effect of essay. The cause and effect essay is a form of argumentative essay. The details that affect relationship between the two subjects. Number 3, justifying essay. A justifying is state a claim and supports with the logical reasons and relevant evidence. Number 4, summarizing. Summarizing an essay is very much summarizing a paragraph. The differences of cause and the essay is longer, so your summary will be longer. Number 5, a generalizing. A generalizing is a broad statement that applied to many examples. Number 6, inferring essay. The means that information is never clearly stated. Writer often tell you more than they say directly. Number 7, classifying. A classification essay is a formal piece of writing used to evaluate your categorizing and generalizing skills. Next, applying. An essay or other writing statement written by an application often of prospective student applying to some and college, university, or a graduate school. Analyzing essay. An analytical essays means you will need to present some type of arguments or claim about what you are analyzing. Next, evaluating essay. An evaluation essay is a composition that offers values judgment about a particular subject according to set and criteria. Last one is creating essay. The essay writing process consists of 3 main strategies: preparation, decide on your topic, do your research, and creating an essay output. There have 2 types of essay, which is restricted essay and non-restricted essay. When we say restricted, it also refers to as a short focus response. Example are asking student to write an example. And also the restricted response question usually limit both content and the response. The content is usually restricted by the scope of the topic to be discussed. Limitations on the form of response are generally indicated in the question. Another way of restricting a response in essay test is the base that question of specific problems. And non-restricted, it can be much longer and complex than short response, but students are encouraged to remain focused and organized. And also, non-restriction is placed in student as the point he will discuss and the type of organizations he will use. Teachers is such a way so as to give student the maximum possible freedom to determine the nature of scope and question. In a way of show, He should be response, of course, being related topic and spatulated. Time frame this type of question.
Let's move on to the guidelines for the formulation and scoring of essay test. Number 1, praise the direction in such a way that students are guided on the key concept to be included. Kailangan natin na mas padaliin or gawing nating maiintindihan agad ng mga mag-aaral ang direction para malaman nila kung ano ang kanilang dapat gawin. Number 2, inform the students on the criteria to be used for grading their essays. Ipaalam din natin sa kanila ang mga criteria kung ano ang kailangan maging content ng kanilang essays at kung ano ang mga kailangan nilang gawin sa kanilang essay. Number 3, put a time limit on the essay test. Magbigay tayo ng oras o minuto kung ilang oras or minuto lang nila ito gagawin. Number 4, decide on your essay grading system prior to getting the essays of your students. Kung kinakailangan, ikaw mismo ang gumawa ng iyong grading system sa essay upang mas maunawaan at magets mo agad ang mga ginawa ng iyong mag-aaral. Number 5, evaluate all of your students' answer to one questions before proceeding to the next question. Ikaw, basahin muna ang lahat ng sagot ng mag-aaral sa unang bilang o sa unang tanong upang malaman mo kung ano ang pagkakaiba at kung ano ang pagkakatulad ng kanilang mga kasagutan. Number 6, evaluate answers to essay question without knowing the identity of the writer. Habang ikaw ay nagbabasa ng mga kasagutan ng iyong mag-aaral, iwasan na alamin kung sino ang may-ari or kung sino ang gumawa ng essay na iyon. Pang-7, whenever possible, have 2 or more persons grade each answers. Kung kinakailangan, ipabasa ito or maghanap ng ibang tao upang magbasa ng essay na ito upang may katulong ka sa paggrado nito or upang makuha mo ang kanilang suggestions ukol dito. Number 8, do not provide optional questions. Huwag maglalagay ng ibang katanungan upang mag-focus lang ang mga mag-aaral sa isang question at doon lang sila babatay kung ano ang kanilang ilalagay sa essays. Number 9, provide information about the value or weight of the question and how it will be scored. Maglagay ng kaunting informasyon or ang kahalagahan ng tanong na iyon upang malaman ng estudyante upang magkaroon sila ng kaunting kaalaman doon sa question na yon. And ipaalam din sa kanila kung paano mo ito i-iskaran. And last, number 10, emphasize higher level thinking skills. So, mas palawakin mo pa ang pag-iisip or mas palawakin mo pa yung katanungan upang mas lumawak din ang kasagutan or ang pag-iisip ng inyong mag-aaral. And that's all. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone. Ang i-discuss ko sa inyo is all about matching type and the guidelines for constructing matching type test. So first, I will discuss the matching type. So the matching type items may be considered multiple choice type items where the choices progressively matches the item on the left with the items on the right. So, matching type is familiar naman tayo dito dahil lumalabas ito sa test at alam natin kung anong ibig sabihin nito. 'Di ba may dalawang column, the column A and column B. So, matching type, kailangan natin i-connect ito yung tamang sagot. 'Di ba na alam naman natin sa exam ito, minsan ay lumalabas. So, kailangan mo lang i-matching yung tamang sagot and yung nararapat. So, example of this yung column A and column B. Yung column A is yung word lamang and the other one, the column B, is yung definition. So, hahanapin mo yung tamang sagot, yung tamang definition. sa column B. Then you connect the right answer. So let's move on to guidelines for constructing matching type test. So match homogeneous, not heterogeneous items. The item to match must be homogeneous. So match homogeneous, hindi heterogeneous item. Dapat yung homogeneous ang item to match. It means homogeneous is each list should include words or phrases that similar in form or to type each other. It may be easier, mas mapapadali if you gave each list of headings such as or tools and use. So, 'di ba po, yung sinabi ko nga po yung may column A and column B. So kailangan mo lang yung ma-analyze or malaman kung yung definition or tools na kailangan dun sa matching type. So that's all.
Let's come now to multiple choices test. It is a type of test offers the student with more than two or more choices. In the set of options, there is a correct or best option, while all others are considered distractors. A multiple choices question usually considered a statement or question followed by 4 or more choices. You must select the best answer from the choices given. Some students study for multiple choice exams, well until the point that they can recognize a correct answer. There are guidelines for constructing multiple choice items. First is, do not use unfamiliar words, items, and phrases. Next is, do not use modifiers, are vague, and meaning can differ from one person to the next, such as more often usually. Next is, each items should be as short as possible. Next, distractors should be equally plausible and attractive. Next is, multiple choices options should be grammatically consist with the stem. Number 6, the length, explicitness, or degree of technicality of alternative should not be determinants of the correctness of the answer. 7. Avoid presenting sequences items in same order as next. Avoid use assume unfamiliar that many examinees may be aware of. 8. Avoid of unnecessary words which are not relevant to the problem. And the last one, avoid use non-relevant sources of difficulty such as requiring a complex calculation when only knowledge of principle is being tested.
So, there are numerous methods for evaluating the student knowledge. One of these ways is the paper and the pencil test. This type of conventional evaluation is intended to examine the lower levels of comprehension and knowledge. So as a student, we likely experience a variety of paper and pencil assessments, which includes the enumeration, essay, true or false, and the multiple choice questions. This type of test involves a great deal of effort and knowledge, particularly in determining your aim in administering a test. Your purpose in assessing the student knowledge should correspond to the type of examination you will administer. For instance, if you want to assess a student knowledge of a certain process, you can offer a non-restrictive essay test in which they can describe the process of an event or a thing. On the other hand, one can develop a multiple choice to assess the student's attentiveness to a certain topic. This can be done to determine whether the individual is attentive enough to avoid the distractor options and select the proper and best option. So, thank you so much for listening and viewing. Happy learning!